Imagine your muscles are screaming, your feet are shredded, bleeding and raw. Against the hard, cold cobblestones, your heart is pounding in your chest like a trapped bird beating at its absolute, dangerous limit. You are completely exhausted. You want to stop. You are begging your own body to just sit down, to rest, to let you breathe. But you can't. Your legs won't obey you. They keep moving, twitching, kicking, stepping to a rhythm that only you can hear. You are forced to dance. This isn't a scene from a horror movie. This actually happened. In July of 1518, in the city of Strasbourg, a woman named Frau Troffea stepped out of her house and began to dance in the middle of a narrow street. There was no music playing, there was no festival, there was no smile on her face, just a silent, frantic, almost robotic movement. She danced for hours, then she danced through the night. By the next day her shoes were soaked with blood, but she still didn't stop. Within a week, 34 other people had joined her. Within a month, there were over 400 people dancing in the streets of Strasbourg. It was a slow-motion mass execution. People were screaming, crying and pleading for help while their feet were literally worn down to the bone. They were dancing themselves to death, collapsing from strokes, heart attacks and sheer exhaustion. How could a single woman's silent dance trigger a deadly epidemic that possessed an entire town? By the end of this video, we are going to look at the bizarre, terrifying, psychological and medical reasons behind this historical nightmare. We will explore how a simple piece of bread might have poisoned an entire community, and we'll dissect the concept of mass psychogenic illness to show how easily the human mind can be hijacked. But first, let's open a loop that will close in just a few minutes. When the local authorities realized they had a massive crisis on their hands, they didn't know what to do, so they called in the city's top doctors and priests, and the cure these experts came up with was so incredibly stupid, so disastrously counterproductive, that it turned a minor local problem into a full-scale, deadly disaster. What was this cure? Hold on to that thought. We will reveal it very soon, and it is going to blow your mind. Let's look at the sheer scale of the horror first. This wasn't a party. People weren't having fun. Eyewitness accounts from the time describe the dancers' faces as filled with absolute terror. They were trapped in their own bodies, completely conscious, but entirely unable to control their limbs. Local magistrates grew desperate. As the numbers climbed from dozens to hundreds, the cobblestone streets of Strasbourg became a chaotic, bloody mess of twitching bodies. Which brings us back to the authorities' fumbled cure. The doctors of 1518 didn't understand germs or neurology. They believed in the theory of the four humors. They decided that the dancers were suffering from hot blood, and according to their medical logic, the only way to cure hot blood was to let them dance it out. Yes, you heard that right. Their official medical advice was to make them dance more. And they didn't just tell them to keep going. They built a massive wooden stage in the center of the town, cleared out public squares, and even hired professional pipers and drummers to keep the music playing day and night. They even paid strong, healthy men to hold the dancers up when they started to collapse from exhaustion, forcing their limp bodies to keep moving. It was like pouring gasoline directly onto a roaring fire. Instead of curing the people, the music and the stage acted as a massive psychological trigger. It made the plague spread like wildfire, drawing more and more vulnerable people into the dance. But why? Why would healthy, normal people join in on a dance that they knew was killing others? Before we dissect the fascinating psychology of mass hysteria, and before we look at the theory of a tiny, mind-altering fungus hiding in their food, do me a quick favor. If you are enjoying this dive into the strangest, darkest corners of human history and want to keep exploring these mind-bending historical mysteries, take just 1 second to hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. It takes you a moment, but it helps us keep bringing these incredible stories to life. Done. Awesome. Now let's close that loop about the food. For years, modern scientists looked at the dancing plague of 1518 and thought, this has to be chemical. They developed a theory called ergotism. Ergot is a dark organic fungus that grows on rye, especially during damp, wet seasons. Rye was the main ingredient in the bread eaten by the poor of Strasbourg. Here is where it gets interesting. Ergot contains organic compounds that are chemically very similar to LSD. When humans eat bread made from infected rye, they suffer from a condition called St. Anthony's fire. It causes severe muscle spasms, terrifying hallucinations, and a feeling of intense, burning heat in the limbs. So did the town of Strasbourg just have a massive, involuntary LSD trip? It sounds like the perfect explanation, But when you look closer, the ergot theory completely falls apart. While ergot does cause spasms and hallucinations, it also cuts off blood circulation to the limbs. It makes people extremely sick, causing gangrene, vomiting, and making it physically impossible to stand up, let alone dance with athletic endurance for days on end. So if it wasn't a chemical poison in their bread, what was it? The answer lies in the terrifying power of mass psychogenic illness, more commonly known as mass hysteria. To understand why this happened in 1518, we have to look at the extreme stress the people of Strasbourg were facing. The year 1518 was a time of absolute misery. The region was suffering from catastrophic crop failures, extreme famine, and a massive outbreak of syphilis and smallpox. People were starving to death in the streets. The psychological stress was at an all-time high. On top of that, they lived in a world of intense religious fear. The people of Strasbourg vividly believed in a Christian saint named St. Vitus. According to local superstition, if you angered St. Vitus, he would punish you by sending a plague that forced you to dance uncontrollably. Now, think about how the brain processes extreme trauma. When a human population is pushed to the absolute edge of starvation, disease, and terror, the mind looks for a way out. It looks for an escape. Frau Troffea was likely the spark. Under immense psychological stress, her brain experienced a dissociative trance state. She began to dance as a physical manifestation of her inner trauma and her fear of St. Vitus's curse. Other starving, terrified citizens saw her. Their highly stressed brains, already primed by the fear of the curse, subconsciously adopted the behavior. It was a contagious psychological release. Their minds literally snapped, entering the same trance-like state to escape the horrific reality of their daily lives. The plague only ended when the city authorities finally realized their music and stages were making it worse. They tore down the stages, banned public dancing, and bundled the surviving dancers onto wagons. They took them to a shrine dedicated to St. Vitus, high in the hills. There the priests placed red shoes on their bleeding feet and prayed over them. And slowly the trance broke, the silence returned. We look back at 1518 and think of those people as primitive, superstitious, and entirely different from us. We think our modern, rational minds are immune to such bizarre behavior. But is that true? Think about how quickly viral panics, internet trends, and collective anxieties spread through our digital world today. Think about how easily we mimic the behaviors of those around us, copy-pasting ideas and actions without even thinking. The same brain that danced itself to death on the bleeding cobblestones of Strasbourg is the exact same brain that is sitting in your head right now, looking at this screen. Tonight, when you lie in the quiet of your room, remember the dancers, and remember how easily the human mind can lose control of the dance. See you next time.